Craig Miller.
Hey, everybody.
We recorded another video that you may or may not have seen already where we talked about Batman and Superman and all sorts of other comics. We really should have seen if we could cram in absolutely every single comic book character ever made.
No.
You know, where it's like they're moving on a Dark Horse now? Wrap it up, guys. Come on.
Let me tell you why Milestone comics were pretty impressive.
But I love you, patrons. I wanted to give you something exclusive here now that we were lucky enough to have Mr. Greg Miller stop by.
What's his Patreon? I've never heard of it.
Patreon.com/kindafunnygame. No. Is allies. And for $1 patrons, you get some exclusive stuff. But one of them is Cup of Jones. You get a weekly live stream with me where I talk about the business and really try to jam, the idea home that I am not a businessman. I'm a content creator. We are figuring this out as we go along.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I talk about with you. And we talked about this a little bit before when I went up to SF with you guys and chatted with you about our relationship with our audiences, and I think it's something that fascinates me. That I think not only just in entertainment, and of course, I think in video games there is, it is a younger crowd typically, and so I think there is that need to have more of a connection with the people that you're following, and so much of what we do is just sitting down and talking and
I would say we have no marketable skills. No,
we
just talk about what other people do.
Yeah,
people with talent make something, and I talk about it.
Yeah. Somebody asked me on Cup of Jones the other day. It's just like, wow, you're like really positive. Is that hard? And it's like, it's hard to be negative actually. Like things are just working out so well. But something I really admire about you, Greg, and something that I think you kind of charged out and did much earlier than I did, even though I think I jumped into the biz a little bit before you, but I was always just so wrapped up in content that I was making.
Yeah,
and,
you were behind the scenes.
Retros and reviews, and I did kind of like the vibe. I did like it when I would be in an industry party and they would be like hearing my voice and be like, where did and that's gone. But it's just transparency.
Yeah.
And so you're very. You put yourself out there a lot. You have had major milestones. Your battle with cancer, your marriage. All of these things that you're very upfront about. And it's terrible. I remember there was one time where I asked you some question. I was like, "Oh, I didn't know about that," and you're like, "Are you never on social media, Jones?" And so
it's always that horrible thing of like we all make content, but none of us have time to watch each other's content.
Yeah.
So I feel like I say the same stories over and over again. I feel like I'm boring people, and then you'll stumble on something that nobody knew that you did. You're like, oh, really?
So I want to hear the same stories over and over again.
What do you want to know?
I mean, the stories about the stories. I mean, have there been any struggles in your career so far with finding that balance between this is for me, these are the games? For example, I saw you were tweeting the other day that, and I admire your pursuit of the platinum. I am so hungry to play other games that when I even get that slight sense of I think I might be done with this game, I'm like, I'm done. All right, next game. Where you definitely have a commitment. You're like, I am platinum in God of War. You're not streaming that. You didn't record that. You're just tweeting out a picture of you going into that.
Yeah.
How do you find that line?
Trial and error. I think it's all trial and error. The progression to being a personality and sharing everything and doing everything. It happens so naturally and quietly that by the time you look back and I'm an internet personality. You know what I mean? That's not what it was. Like when I started at IGN, I was there to review PSP games. And so then it was like, that's what I did. And then Damon wanted me to be on podcast and that's what I did. And Damon and I would leave after doing Game Scoop, walk back to our desk. And I remember saying once wouldn't it be awesome if that was the job? Just a podcast? He's like, yeah, but no, go back to reviewing that whatever, Valhalla Nights on PSP. Yeah, all right, bye, see ya. And it happens so quietly. The first milestone I had with the podcast and understanding the connection was the Game Scoop where I announced that I was getting divorced because I'd moved out to San Francisco engaged, and I was 23, so we were super young, but it was what you do or did in the Midwest in my time, where you went to college, you met somebody, you fell in love, we'll love each other through anything, and then you get married, and then you start having kids. But instead of staying in the major metropolitan Missouri area, right, I went to San Francisco and brought her out, and then that kind of blew open the doors of wow, life's a lot bigger than I think we might have thought it was. And so I was on the Game Scoop. Damon and I did the normal show, and then we came back in there privately, and I did a thing of hey, I want you guys to know that you probably notice I'm not mentioning my wife that much anymore, but I went through this whole thing of explaining it. And at the end, I stubbed my toe, or somebody sends me a sock and I start crying. But this is unheard of at the time. I started tearing up and trying to talk through crying, and I had to stop myself and be like, I know this is hard to understand. I'm not crying because of the marriage. I'm crying because of how much you mean to me. I'm telling you this and this sharing this raw thing with me because you're my, and I think this is when I started saying best friends. You're one of my best friends, right? You know me better than my parents do because you listen to this show, and like, granted, you're here to hear what I think of whatever PSP game I'm playing, but also that leads into what I did last night and where Damon and I went and this thing, and you hear so much more about my life than when a friend calls to catch up, not the daily minutia of what you did or where you went to this movie or what, that kind of thing. And so that was where I was like, that was a powerful moment, and I think it definitely solidified the relationship I had with the fans who were listening to the podcast. But even then, it was so small. And so it was, for a long time at IGN, you know, I was getting more and more popular, I guess. But there's no way to gauge that metric, right? People like the podcast great. They like Beyond great. And it would be that I would go to shows, and that's when it would really start getting, wait, why are people like following me around or stopping me or doing this thing? And it's not like it is now where it's way different. But like now, you know, like E3, Andrea calls me the mayor of E3. Because I can't walk through E3. I'm like shaking hands and I'm like talking to people.
Well, it's hilarious for Andrea to say that
Yeah, I know,
because
right?
that's like the curse of being around Andrea. Dude, I count it down. Whenever I like bump into her, I'm like, oh, hey, Andrea. 5,
3,
4,
yeah.
3. And she's like, Andrea! And then somebody said, oh, hold on a second. Hi, how are you? And
Andrea
like,
goes the opposite way with it, though, right? Where I think Andrea, everyone in the industry knows Andrea Renee and wants to hang out with her as like PR or developer or whatever. Whereas I'm much more the fan grassroots person. It's
yeah.
Up at Noon changed everything and really brought in developers and really brought in that thing. And that it was such a weird thing that by the time when we launched Kind of Funny and we got out there and we started streaming from the spare bedroom and all that, it was natural that this is how it is. And then it was to what you're talking about. Okay, cool. I was already trying to stream weekly on Twitch or bi-weekly on Twitch. And so when we left, it was like, cool, we're going to stream. We were so stupid when we left. We're like, we're going to do the morning show in the morning, and then we'll do the podcast in the afternoon, and we'll stream. We'll just hang out and stream. It was like, you know how much work that is? And like, so it never happened. And then it became like, well, how do I do this? What do I do? And we would start doing streams, and either I wasn't enjoying it or it wasn't great content for the audience. And like, that's what, when we left, the big fear was, and I'm sure it was for you too, of like, are we going to matter? Will the audience know where we are? What do they,
that second one I think was the way bigger concern.
Yeah, and what will
we're still facing, 2 years later.
What will they want from us was such a big thing.
Yeah.
And so we tried to do everything in that first year, and then you had to start picking and choosing what you did because we were all starting to explode. And so that's when
taking something away.
And that was we overpromised too much coming out of the gate.
Of course,
we totally made too much stuff.
I actually got a huge breath of satisfaction. It's like, I think it was a Kind of Funny Live too, where you were like, hey, and then we have this new show. You'll probably get it in like 10 months, but we're announcing this, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm not so concerned.
No, and that's the same thing. We learned by making mistakes, and that's when it became cool. Like, you know what? We're not going to be the Twitch gaming channel. Like, you're not. We're going to be on. We're on Twitch 2.5 hours every day, talking, doing what we already do. We're podcasters. We podcast, and that's what we're doing there. On the rare occasion, I'm going to play a game there, do something with the kids. Sure, but you're not subscribing to our Twitch channel expecting us. Hey, why isn't Greg playing this on? Why isn't he streaming his Platinum God of War? What is happening? And so that's like a rare treat to do that. And it was finding our vision and being okay with not doing stuff and being okay with being like, no, they're way better at that. No, that's what you should go see that. You know what I mean?
I think one of the main turning points for us, when I talked about this before on your show, that when Game Trailers went down and we're trying to figure out what we were going to do, and somebody pointed me to the fact that like they're still in chat. And going back to, twitch.tv/Game Trailers and seeing them just talking to each other because this was their platform to do that. And so there were many reasons we started Easy Allies, but that was one thing where I was like, okay, financially, I don't know where we're going to be, but emotionally, I know this is going to be worth it for us because we have the support, because we have these people that are just there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's to move on to another topic, like it feels bad because there's some people, there are our fans that we've had at Game Trailers have been with us, names that I recognize, like, oh, that person's been around forever, ever since we first started live streaming, whereas like new people coming in now, and you don't want to pick favorites, you don't, but like it just happens, you just have more people that are local, like I think your audience would be much more familiar with me if I lived in San Francisco. I always wish that I had that like Val Kilmer Batman, like fast tube that would just like hit a button and slip on my desk. Like poof, I'm in San Francisco.
Teleportation would be great.
But I think it is kind of got to be tough, to kind of gauge like who lives where and who's able to be accessed through what and why.
And that like that comes down to being in those platforms. forums, right? Like I know the Reddit crowd for our subreddit, and I
Yeah.
know who's on Patreon, Amy Gills, of course, and then I know everybody on Twitch, and then I know the YouTube commenters, and I know the Facebook group. I don't use Facebook, so I don't know that well, but I know who is active there, and Tim's over there, and it was again there too where we had to pick and choose our battles, right? Like it was, we launched the forums at Kinda Funny Live.
I get it wrong too. I think it's forum.easyallies.com, but I get corrected.
Well, I mean,
all the
like
time.
we've basically backed off them just because like we did it, and it was based on advice we'd gotten from in the industry when we were when people were like, hey, we love Kinda Funny, where can we gather? And we're like, oh, our subreddit, and Gus from Roosty, they're like, dude, don't send me, own what you want to own. And they're like, oh, okay. And then kids are like, we love a forum, and we built the forum, but none of us were forum people. So it was suddenly this thing that like it's still there for those people who want to use it,
Yeah.
but we've backed off on using it that way because we were, even by saying you can submit your question or do this on the forums, it gave you the implied promise that we would be there doing stuff. And so we're not. So it's like, you can have it. We want you to have it. But it's like we have to figure out how to make it all work.
And what's difficult with us is there's 9 of us.
Yeah.
And so you have some people that are not on social media really at all,
Yeah.
and then other, you have Michael Damiani, who's very focused on Twitch. You have Ben Moore, who's, very focused on Patreon, does a lot of question and answer stuff. He's got his own email set up for one show. Daniel Bloodworth, who's in our forums, reads a lot of YouTube comments, is passing a lot of that information on.
Yeah.
And then you get comments from our audience, but they're like, no, I want you to be on the YouTube
it's
comments.
like,
And it's like, I
sorry,
can't be
man.
everywhere all at once. But you touched on something earlier that seems kind of like a big boo-hoo moment, but like, you were saying, like, I started weeping because I felt so grateful, and I was filled with so much pride for what we had and so much love for our audience. And I was speechless when we had this fundraiser the other week where we made
that was awesome.
3 times, the amount that we thought that we were. We did not think that was going to happen. We are like eternal pessimists here at EC Allies. I remember like the last thing that Ian said when we walked out the door. He's like, "We're gonna make like 3K." I was like, "Okay, I would just like be prepared for that." And that's we're like, we want to get this camera for $5,000. If you could help us get that, that'd be great. If we get higher than that, that'd be awesome. We're probably gonna get like $800.
Yeah.
And all these people came out that we had never heard of before. Names were popping up on Twitch. I've never seen that name, which makes me think maybe there's just people that are just like, I just don't like Patreon. Sure, I'll give you money through PayPal, but that's about it. But yeah, it's like how do you wrestle with the feeling that your audience, and this is not accusatory, but like just from my experience, the feeling that there's no way your audience will ever get it, that will ever truly understand how grateful you are, how special this is, how much we appreciate this opportunity that we're given. It's like, again, boo-hoo, but like, I don't know. It's something I'm struggling with.
I think I'm lucky enough that I've said it enough and showed it enough that I think the audience gets it. And there's always somebody who's newer or is just trolling, is just going to come by a forum or want to take a shot or say something on social media. And the fact that now, rather than me have to break it down to that person and explain it, if they're being respectful enough, the audience does it for me. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is not how it is. And because there's always somebody, I always say, we call them best friends. And in the early days, it was, you're calling us best friends, but you're asking us for money. Like, that's weird, don't you think?
Right.
And I wouldn't ask my best friends for money that way. And it was like, that's fair, you know what I mean? But that's not what we mean. The best friend isn't, hey, you gave us $1 on Patreon. You're a best friend.
Yeah,
it's you're listening to this content, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing of, on my birthday a couple weeks ago, I did a thing, last week, I did a thing that was just like, hey, it's my birthday. A lot of people are thanking me for that, or saying, happy birthday in the chat and inside of the Twitter. I'm like, I'm going to ask you for a gift. I'm going to ask you for $1. I'm going to ask you to go to Patreon and do this. If you're already giving us $1, consider giving us another $1. And I'm asking you because it's to the point that, it sounds crazy, but we've been around long enough now that we're established. And I think that when I'm like, and don't forget, you can get everything early at patreon.com, and it's like, it just becomes part of the rigmarole, and you don't think about it. And it all stemmed from, I'm a big Death, Sex, and Money fan. It's a podcast that Anna Sale does.
Yeah.
And, right now, the last episode I listened to, they're doing a thing of like, hey, we really could use the help. Like, we say all the time, it'd be great for you to support us. Right now, we're doing this thing. We do need it. So please, and it's like, oh, like, when you break the rhythm, when you break the fact that it's just the same old lower thirds going by and say it, the audience responds, and a whole bunch of people responded and gave us that $1 that day. You know what I mean? I was like, thank you so much. That means the world to us. And I think that is that they get it. And it also was the tweets of, hey, hey man, I've been meaning to do it forever and just never thought to do it. I'm doing it today because you mentioned it. Thanks for mentioning it. It's like, all right, great. It is working. It is going the way we want it to.
Well, speaking of that dollar, you have some things. You have shows. We have shows either timed exclusives or completely exclusive to people that give money on Patreon, and we experience blowback for that. We have fans that are just like, all of it should be free. I don't know why. I give to Patreon so that I'm getting this stuff anyway, but I don't understand. Like, certainly if you want to grow your brand, certainly if you want people to experience this content, why would you have something that only a limited audience? We have 6,000 people on Patreon, which is a tremendous number, but at the same time, there's we have 150,000 people on YouTube,
Yeah,
and so it's like, has that been something to struggle with,
Oh my
or
God,
how do you
yeah,
try to
dude.
communicate
We've gone through and done. We used to do it that the dollar gave you an exclusive episode of either the Games Cast or the Game Over Greggy show, and then you look at the views you're getting on that, like right, we know how what I think totaled up right now. It's between 10,000-12,000 patrons, maybe. I think between both channels. They're probably more like 10. And it's like, we're not getting 10,000 views on these, or even if you split in half, we're not getting 5,000 views on this thing. And so it was like, all right, cool. We're putting so much energy into that and so much time into that, and it's like the old thing IGN used to say, and we'd roll our eyes at, but it was true of like man hours, right? Of like, if there's 4 of us in that room doing that show, and it's like, how does that equate out? So we backed off that, and then now we've moved to where you get early access to certain shows, like the Games Patreon gives you at $1 week exclusivity to Party Mode, which is the cool Let's Play series we do. That's always multiplayer. And then on Kind of Funny, the $1 gets both get you to watch the show live as we record it. We've tinkered so many times and changed the formula so many times to try to figure out what is actually beneficial. Because the biggest thing is we have a fan mail tier, or not a video tier, where we'll make you a personalized thank you video if you stay at this tier for 3 months. And there's a woman on there who's been doing it since the start, and her videos have consistently get 0 views. Like, she doesn't even watch the video we are making her. And so it's like, that's awesome. It's a healthy tier. I'm happy that I get the money, but it's just like that's the mindset of most of our patrons,
right?
Where it is, hey, we just want to support you.
Well, I take questions on Cup of Jones, and if every person at the $1 tier asked me a question every week, there's no way I could be able to do that. And the same thing,
we were talking about on the comic episode we just did that I do we now have, again, exclusive shows on both of them. So I do a monthly comic book show over on Kind of Funny that's exclusive on that Patreon. And it's the same thing of like the amount of people that at the level that you can ask questions could ask questions, we'd be there forever. But we get 9. You know what I mean? And like people are actually interested that they're there specifically for that reason. And so that's the balancing act of seeing what works. And we actually had it recently on our subreddit as a recording like 2 days ago. There was a huge thread about YouTube tags, because YouTube tags we don't even bother with anymore. Like, we just have the same old thing that goes in there. It's like Kind of Funny, Greg Miller, because for every video that goes up, because your headline gets tagged, that becomes a tag. So if it's God of War, it's in there. I don't have to tag God of War or whatever. Yeah. And when we were doing it, when I was, this all started as my personal YouTube channel. When I was super like doing the Oreo reviews and this, that, and the other, and like the tags aren't what brings in the views. And so like the subreddit conversation was, hey, I've noticed the guys don't do this. Why don't they do this? And Tim was supposed to put up a response. I hope he has. But it was the thing of like they could grow and they could do this and da-da-da. And it's like, sure, there's a lot of different things we could do to grow and get bigger and yada yada. That's honestly not what it's about. It is about that we want to grow,
right?
We want to get bigger, but I'm not looking to become Phil DeFranco overnight and have 3 million subs or something, or try to take on IGN. Like, it's like, man, it would be awesome to be on Metacritic, but I don't want to give out scores. That's not who we are. We didn't want to do that, so like we don't. You know what I mean? We just talk about the games, and our God of War review is about to hit like 100K. It's like awesome. And like I go to see yours and it's like you guys had like
suck it
266 or whatever on day 1. But
actually, that makes me feel good, because I mentioned our 6,000. You're like, what are we up to? I think 12. Anyway, it's
all
right.
But that's the thing, right? Of like, it just doesn't
what
matter.
metric matters and what in when. There's no easy answer to it.
And in the old days, I think we would have chased it more of like, man, like their video reviews that are shorter and using footage do so well. Yeah, we could try to do it maybe for big review. It's like, no, we're gonna do an hour and a half long conversation.
Oh, but I'm super jelly
at
Party Mode, man. That's a great idea, And those, I have yet to watch an entire Party Mode, but those clip outs are just riotous, man. They're really, really great.
Next week's the one where Andy almost quit because Nick and I team killed him. So that'll be a fun one to get at. But that's the thing is like, I feel in those first few years, I was super protective of it. I wanted to chase everything, and now I'm to a point where it's like, all right, cool, we're fine, we're established. You know what I mean? Like, we're not in a place that I need to worry about it, nor do I need to chase down the next big thing. Like, we you know what you get when you come to a Kind of Funny thing. And if you don't want podcasts and a bunch of dudes and occasionally Joey walking in and Andrea walking in talking, like, you know, I mean, Kind of Funny Games Daily is a completely different product for us, but works really well and does really well. And that's the thing is, like, I think all of this just came with screwing up, right? Like, I owe Kyle an apology. You know, you're Kyle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had beef with him.
No one knows Kyle an apology.
I had beef with him that I was public about, which I never am. But Tim caught me off guard on a Gamescast early on. I was just like, yeah, and we should get... And kind of Colin and I were both like, no. And I was like, you talk shit about Kind of Funny. And because I was still very much in that protective mode of, like, I wasn't ready for someone in our industry.
Well, it was also a comment on just the name Kind of Funny, because we were very early in your life. We weren't necessarily sure. And that was the vibe that I got, because I remember a lot of people were posting videos of you doing skits and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, is it kind of like a Saturday Night Live vibe? Or like The State? Is that kind of what's going on here? Or like, what are they putting together?
It'd be The State would be awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of what we all aspire to. But yeah, it's I think it can be tricky, and I imagine it's kind of like having a kid and then having another kid, you know, where you're like, that first
I
kid,
don't worry so much
you just
about it,
absolutely protect, and then the other one just kind of like, watch your brother.
It's the weird thing now of, like, you know, having free time in a day. Where I like, okay, cool, I get in, I plan Games Daily, maybe I'm on the morning show, or maybe I work through it, then it's Games Daily, then it's lunch, and then usually it's the podcast. And then if it wasn't the podcast for the longest time, it would be a Let's Play, and not even a party mode. Hey, let's just do a Let's Play. Let's try to stream. Let's do this. And you're just like, I have way more gray hair than I should because we tried to do all that. And so now it's really awesome to get to on a Thursday to get to 2:30 and be like, all right, cool, I'm going to answer emails. And then maybe I might play a video game at my desk. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I might actually hang out here and talk to people. Like, that's the thing, yesterday after the Gamescast, we do a pre and post show. Pre-show beforehand, obviously, and post-show for the people watching live and later on the Patreon. And Joey came on and was sitting down. I was talking to her, and I was just like, you realize this is the longest we've talked in like 2 weeks outside of like my birthday party. It's because at work, everybody's off, and you know how it is. It's running on a million different... Everybody's on all cylinders all the time.
One of the hardest things to do is when we group stream Tuesday nights at like 5:58 p.m. right before we go live. It's like, okay, all right, shut up. You know, like, we just can't... Yeah, but I was talking about that thing. Like, Huber's the worst, man. Like, he just wants to know. He's just, you know... And that's what's funny. Everybody's like, that's an act. It's like, no, it is not. Not only is it not an act, it's a problem. Like, it's so excessive.
It's an issue.
He, like, I can't remember what show we were doing, and he, like, was on his phone and, like, brought up a completely different topic. And we were like, Huber, we're doing a thing. He's like, oh, are we recording? It's like, yes, we're on a show right now, dude. But so not only, like, expressing the gratitude to our audience, but, like, making sure people understand that, like, this is so weird. This is such a bizarre job, and it always has been a weird job. Like, you know, even when you were at IGN and when I was at Game Trailers, like, we still kind of, you know, made things up as we went along. But what is this going to be in a couple of years? How long are we going to be doing this? You know, like, can we bring in other people? You know, it's like with the name Allies, like, I'm so tempted to just collaborate with everybody under the sun and bring in new people that aren't us. You know, we're like 9 white dudes, just not like a ton of, diversity going on at EC Allies. And so, like, I'd love to bring in, like, lots of different perspectives.
Sure.
And you were talking about, like, growing at a measured pace, bringing in the right people. I remember you talking about this in the past in your shows. Is that something you still feel? Is that like a concern, or is it like a main goal of yours to?
Oh yeah, I mean it's to
grow organically.
It's a goal to not only. I think what I've been mainly hung up on when I talk about it and why I push the Patreon and this sort of stuff is it's not even. I want to grow organically. Yes, I want to be able, when we decide, man, we do need X, we can get X. We can make that happen. But my main concern right now is that, you know, going from the 4 of the co-founders who quit IGN, right, to then going to 7 full-time, 3 contractors who are in each day or each week, then editors and collaborators around the world we're paying for different things on different projects. My concern is when Andy comes to me and he's like, hey, I love it here, I've been having so much fun, I need X amount of money to stay because it's San Francisco, it's cost of living, it's that. I want to start a family, I want to do this, and we can't. Yeah. That's what I'm always worried about. It's smart growth for us, but it's also about retaining talent because we are so great right now. You know what I mean? I've been saying since really we soft relaunched at Kind of Funny Live 3 with Games Daily and then new seasonal content and Cooking with Greg and all that jazz. And since then, I feel like we've been out of the blocks making the best things I've ever made in my career. And so I don't want to lose someone over something dumb. When Andy comes to me and he's like, hey, I just got offered a job at this place and it's a passion. I'm like, go, dude. You know what I mean? Go do your thing. I want you to be happy.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be over some stupid accounting thing that I could have fixed if I would have hustled more or gotten a different ad deal. You know what I mean? It's like, and we're lucky enough that our audience sees that. And again, we've built it from the ground floor with them. They feel like they're a part of the successes. And even like, it's such a night and day difference of when we left in 2015 and nobody knew what was happening, the audience or us really, to now where when I'm late to the subreddit for a day, I see people answer the questions, right? Where it was just like, man, Greg's been talking about wanting to retain talent and do all this different stuff. And like, that maybe they should go out for other, outside funding. And like people will be in there like, will you people are like, I don't know for sure, but I would anticipate every time I see Greg hosting the DICE Awards or doing something out here or doing a sponsored video, that's money he's bringing back from Kind of Funny.
Right.
And I'm like, exactly. You get it. You know what I mean? You get that, like, it's never, out there I'm trying to be this fucking face and I want to be this and I want all that. I mean, it's cool to have the Twitter followers. It's cool that DiGiorno sends me pizzas. But it's like I want to use whatever opportunities I have to make sure the business continues to grow and can be there. I want you said, what's the future? What does it look like? I really do hope that, in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, we've brought in X amount of people who are making the shows they want to make. I'm on the amount of shows I want to be on. Not that I don't want. Right now I still want to be on everything, so obviously I'm on so much. But there's going to be a time where I'm like, you know what?
I want to be a voice actor.
Maybe I just yeah, right. I'm terrible. Maybe I just want to do Games Daily. Maybe I just want to do Games Daily and the Game Over Greggy show. I want to get us to a place where we've grown smartly enough that sure we can do that, and then persons X, Y, and Z we've brought in have been ingratiated enough that everybody knows and loves them, so it isn't a big deal for them to come on and take on that full-time thing, and they don't feel like they're getting less. Because like you're talking about removing content. Removing somebody from a show is always tough. Removing a show is always tough.
Right. One thing that I admire that you guys do, and I still know how you do it, is one thing from our relatively smaller size compared to obviously Game Trailers and your group is that when we have meetups, we will get we will get work through it. We'll get a very manageable group of people that will show up.
Sure.
We're still in the double digits as far as like people that will show up like 2 events, and so we don't necessarily have to have like queue lines, And I think you do like a really good mix of like, hey, if we're doing that at Kind of Funny Live, you got to get in line. There's just so many people here,
yeah.
But at the same time, we're all getting wings after, and you can just show up. Like, have there any regrets there? Any difficulty? And just like, hey, go to this place and meet me there, and then like, whoa, too many people.
No,
there's somebody.
no.
Yeah,
I mean that's the thing is like I call them best friends because I feel like anybody can walk because it all stems not the best friend business, but anybody can walk up to me and we can just drop right into a conversation. Because early on at IGN when I started getting popular, I'd go out to these things and be like, all right, cool. Hey, I'm a big fan. I'm, Ted. Hi, Ted. I'm Greg. And we just sit there and awkwardly look at each other and be like, all right, well, I gotta go. And then, after that happened a few times, there was another IGN meet and greet where I was a little bit drunk. And the guy walked up and the exact same thing happened. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. And he's like, what? I'm like, you're meeting me and you're quiet. I'm not what you expected. And the guy's like, no. Our relationship is me listening to you. He's like, I don't know what the hell to do right now. I don't know how. And I'm like, oh. So now literally somebody walks up and like, oh my God, I'm a big fan. They're shaking on it. And you're like, great. And then if it does, I'm like, so what are you playing right now?
Yeah.
What did you think about this? What do you know what I mean? Like you're just into it and you fall into that rhythm. And so, yeah, we've been lucky that, the meet and greets and everything else scales nicely in terms of how big you want it to be. Like, we're getting ready for Kind of Funny Prom, June 30th. You should come up. It'll be great. And that's going to be a huge meet and greet, right? But that's also taking feedback we've gotten from Kind of Funny Live 1 through 3, where it was like, all right, cool. We love the stage show. We love the crazy thing you do, but we also love hanging out. What if it was more hanging out? And it's like, okay, Tim almost dies every year he does this Kind of Funny Live business, planning it.
It's his fault.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if we scale it back? This is a smaller, more intimate event. This is a prom. You know what I mean? And like that's where people are like, yeah. When we announced it, it is a weird thing, obviously, to announce a prom as a bunch of 35-year-old men. But when we announced it, there was confusion and like, oh, is there going to be VIP areas? And we're like, no. Like when you hear Mia Khalifa's coming, Mia Khalifa is out on the floor dancing with her date. Like we're all there. We're all there. And like, well, I don't have a girlfriend. I'm like, you think my wife will not dance with anyone who wants to dance with her? You will be fine. Like this is literally just us all hanging out with little bits and things in between it all to stitch it all together. But that's what this is about. That's what makes this special. I don't want to get so removed from it that you can't have that relationship. I don't want people to feel like I never want somebody to come to a live event or a meet and greet we did and not feel like they got everything they needed. That's why at the end of a meet and greet, right, when it's like about to be time for us to go, because usually we just Batman out. It's I'll do that thing of like always the time. I'll be like, hey everybody, we're getting 15-minute. Like who needs photos? Who needs? What do you need? Like I know I walk around and I'm usually good with faces, so I'm just like I know I've talked to that table. I haven't gotten to that table yet. I need to make sure I get to everybody and touch tables and like check in.
Well, this is fun because like I remember when we were on the Telltale Batman show together, and we were like in the cab, like driving back like to your place, and I was just like, all right, how are you guys dealing with this? What are you doing with this? We had this problem. It's like because for multiple reasons. One, I like to steal as many ideas as I possibly can from you guys, and two,
isn't that what everybody does? It's
right.
We all steal everything.
And two, it's who do you go to for feedback about this?
Yeah.
It really. It's not an issue. It's not a problem. Just this weird forum that we are in, and when we try to connect with our audience as much as we can. But obviously, there's moments. One thing that we get feedback from that people kind of get frustrated is they're like, where's this one project? You talked about it, and we're not really getting updates on that. And it's like, well, we want to surprise you with that.
Yeah.
And so they can be frustrating that like that's a $20,000, $30,000 tier on your Patreon. Like we would like an update, and it's like, yeah, but then that might build up too much anticipation. Like we kind of just want to like hold off, and then we'll bring it to you.
That's been a huge struggle for us of announcing projects too early, overcommitting, and then you have to walk it back. Like we've I think we've been good about it now, and obviously, if you're a kind of funny best friend, let me know if we're not. But I mean, early on in the days, for sure, where we were just missing the deadlines we were setting. You mentioned we just did the comic thing, right? And you asked my Superman pitch for a video game.
Yeah.
It's like, I have one, and I just need to carve out a week to make it and make it the way I want it, because I don't want to half-ass it, and I don't want it to just be me talking. I want it to be something that looks great and is shareable. You just have to learn, and you have to go through that, and you take those knocks with the audience. And like we've done the exact same thing of like where there's a bunch of pain points the audience is bringing up, but we're quiet on them because we're getting ready for January 5th, which is our anniversary. So we always have big announcements there, or Kind of Funny Live, where it's like, we know this thing's coming, so we'll just sit here and take the lumps. But then after a month of people being like, why is this broken? They're no longer like, hey, this sucks. It's like, they're not listening to us anymore. That's what this is about. And you have to be like, nope. We miscalculated on that one. We're sorry about that. We were listening, but we were trying to get to here.
And some people, we express frustration sometimes when we focus on the squeaky wheel, and a lot of times that can be just like a really small percentage of the community. But like, I don't want to speak for you, but like when you get those notices from people that leave Patreon and they're like, you did this, I'm out. That is so valuable. And even if we are openly deciding not to take your recommendation, or we can't, or we've made that decision a long time ago, like I never want people to feel that when they send those messages, they're just kind of lost in the wind. They're like, well, they're not going to listen to me. It's like, those are very valuable. Like we
well, that's the same thing when people are like, oh man, I can only give you $1. It's like, no,
are you nuts?
That's a big deal.
Even if you can't, or people are like, I can't give you $1. All I do is just watch all of your shows continually on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, man, or even just saying, we're at the point where our God of War review, when they went up, it cracks me up every time I count them. Every time in the comments, people are like, is that the Game Trailers guy? And it's like, it's been 2 years. Welcome back. That like it takes some time, but we just grow organically. Go out there, make new best friends. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's grassroots, right? It is handshakes. It is you bring a friend to a panel I'm on, and that friend who thought I sucked because of my Lair review watches it and is like, he was kind of funny. Maybe I'll check out a video. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is. And there's no magic way, and not that we'd want it, right? Because it would be empty to put up a video tomorrow that gets 1 million views and that leads to 500,000 subs. And no, that's not what it is. That's not who this is.
All right, we're wrapping up the show. Give me a cheers, Greg. Give me a cheers to the camera.
Cheers.
Ready? Wait. To there and then to the fans. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.